Hello and welcome back to, well, I think we'd better call this Matron's Corner because I've been joining dots. I'm joining so many dots and well, welcome. I'm Debbie Evans, and for those of you that don't know me, and I hate having to go through this again, but I'm just an ordinary, regular, old school trained nurse. Used to be a ward sister in the NHS trained, and I was a government advisor at the Department of Health for 5 years on the Autism Programme Board. And I'm pretty good at joining dots, and I like to observe patients, observing patients. I'm a good observer, so I like to see what's going on, keeping my eyes on everything, keeping my ears to the ground. And I've got some pretty serious and a lot of news to bring you today. And so if you hear rustling of paper, I do apologise, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right information, so I might have to check my notes from time to time. But first of all, before we come on to the really serious business, are you living in London? London, hello, welcome London. London calling, please hear me London. I've got some news for you. So let's go to the NHS, the National Health Service. Now, can you just remember that? National, right? National Health Service. The NHS logo, we're all familiar with the NHS logo. But this article in HSJ just happened to catch my attention. They were talking about a city to simulate a different health service. Really, I thought to myself, which city would this be? And what would they be simulating and why? So off I went to NHS England, like you do, and there we have it. NHS England doesn't exist anymore, and that there's an urgent need to transform the National Health Service into a neighbourhood health service. And we have Lord Darcy to thank for this. We've got Lord Darcy to thank for quite a lot, actually. We're going from a national to a neighbourhood. Where? Which city? Well, you might have guessed by my introduction. Yes, it's you, London. Did you know you were going to be trialled in this real-time, real-life experiment? Did you know that the NHS stands for Neighbourhood Health Service now? I didn't, but it does, and it's starting, well, it's actually started. It's starting in May 2025, so you haven't got very long to wait. And this is the company, PPL, who are setting it all up, and they are a leading social enterprise management consultancy. Doesn't that fill you with reassurance, a management consultancy? But have no fear, they donate half their profits to charity partners, and when you go and have a look at the people in charge, do go to their website and have a look at their website, because you'll see that there's very similar names being mentioned, the same old, QC, KC, and then you've got a few politicians and then venture capitalists involved in it. So big organisation, big experiment. London, May 2025, not long to go. So NHS Neighbourhood Health Service. Remember that, national's gone, neighbourhood. Now I want to turn my attention to something that it sparked my attention, and I'm going to talk about rare disease. What is a rare disease? I'm going to be bringing Cheryl Granger in very shortly, in the next couple of weeks actually, to talk about rare disease and rare side effects, because how rare is rare? What is rare? According to this, it's uncommon. I thought you might like the picture of the hen's teeth there, as rare as hen's teeth. We have our own rare disease day. You have a day for everything, don't we? A cancer day, or a shingles day, or a wake up with a bad hair day. Well, we've got a rare disease day, which was on the 28th of February, looking at raising awareness for rare diseases. Well, let's look at the COVID vaccination, because here we look at rare. That word again, look, rare. When does rare become rare? When is rare common? That's what I'm going to be asking all of you. So bear that in mind. So we've got the COVID vaccination here, rare side effects, talking about myocarditis, Guillain-Barré, and blood clots. Well, I'm seeing quite a few of those at the moment, so perhaps they're not as rare as we think. We've got more rare adverse events associated with mRNA. Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? And the COVID-19 vaccines. And like I say, Cheryl Granger is going to be joining me very soon to talk a lot more about mRNA, the COVID-19 vaccines, what's coming down the line with regards to mRNA, the dangers of mRNA, and of course the MHRA. So lots to talk about with Cheryl, but there's more. There's even more to show you, because look at the British Medical Journal here, the BMJ. 2 more rare side effects in a large global study. Transverse myelitis and acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, rare vaccine effect. Well, they're not that rare, are they? And we'll come on to why they're not in a minute. But in the people, they ask why a small number of people have developed adverse reactions to COVID vaccines. Excuse me, a small amount of people? I think I remember a lecture that June Rain was saying that they only expected 100,000 yellow cards, but actually got 500,000. And I have to say the MHRA have stopped publishing them now, so we have no idea how many serious adverse reactions there are, but they're certainly not rare. Defining rates of rare, let's look at that, the COVID-19 vaccine related adverse events. Scientists still cannot make up their minds whether they can be certain of a link to the COVID vaccines or not. I'm sure many people watching this have seen enough irrefutable evidence. Thank you, John Bodwin and Ed Dowd and all of those amazing people who have done so much work on serious adverse reactions from the COVID-19. But we're seeing now not just rare diseases and diseases that we know, myocarditis and Guillain-Barré, that we've heard of before, but we've now got a new disease that's just emerged from nowhere, and people are calling it turbo cancer. And turbo cancer is a cancer that's being described as affecting young people much more and being very rapid, and perhaps cancers that are appearing in different parts of the body at once. Turbo cancer. However, from Cancer Active here, and they're admitting it, the Yale experts are admitting it here in Cancer Active, they're seeing a rise in younger turbo cancer. Why? Why are we seeing a rise in a new disease of turbo cancer? What has changed in the last 5 years? That's what I'm asking everybody out there. What do you think? What's the one thing that's changed? Could it be the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines? And I would strongly suggest that unless they're eliminated, then they're still very much on the table. And what kind of cancers are we looking at with these young people? We're looking at colorectal cancer. We're looking at blaming the pandemic for this sudden rise in cancer. So are we blaming COVID-19, the virus in inverted commas? Are we blaming that? I'm not sure. But anyway, there's no surprise here, because let's go and have a UK parliamentary look, shall we? Because UK Gov is always doing something. And now we can see, look, a rare cancer private members bill, would you believe? Who knew this was going through? Dr. Scott Arthur, Edinburgh Southwest. So for those of you living in Edinburgh, you might like to write to your MP, Scott Arthur. He's a professor at the Institute of Infrastructure and Environment at the Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. If anybody would like to contact him and maybe make contact and ask him why he thinks we deserve or need a rare cancer parliamentary bill. Why do we need that? And as you can see here, the bill is on the second reading. It's going through very nicely. Maybe I'm being too cynical, but the assisted dying bill, which is also Kim Ledbetter's private members bill, seems to be going along in tandem, in parallel with that. So I'd ask you all to watch out for these private members bills that are sliding their way through Parliament, and then all of a sudden we end up with a law and legislation that none of us really wanted or needed. I'll leave you to decide for that. And finally on this, if you want information about the rare cancer bill, I'm afraid you're not going to get it, because there are no publications available for this bill yet. So please stay tuned. Going back to gov.uk, we find that indeed rare is not rare anymore. In fact, it's so common. We've got a policy paper, and here it is, the policy paper for England Rare Diseases Action Plan for 2025. Well, let's look at that in a bit more detail. So you can see here that the UK strategy for rare diseases, we're looking at between 5,000 to 8,000 rare diseases a year. Each affects less than 0.1% I'll just repeat that. Let that sink in. 0.1% this affects of the population, and together that accounts for about 3 million. 3 million of the population are suffering from what the government are calling rare diseases. So what's the aim for so few, you might ask? Well, if we go on further, we can see that this phrase keeps coming up, doesn't it? No one gets left behind just because they have a rare disease. Well, actually, from where I'm sat, it's the majority of us that don't have a rare disease that are being left behind. And I heard from a pensioner just the other day, a lady in her 80s who couldn't even get her ears syringed. She was deaf. All she needed was an ear syringe. But the NHS no longer provide ear syringing for elderly people and people that need it. So I'm saying, are the majority of us being failed, and the minority receiving very expensive and absolutely, groundbreaking treatments and clinical trials and everything else that goes with it, but at what cost? Us? That's what I'm going to ask next. You know what? Rare disease. Everybody's on this gig now. Everybody. Let's look at AstraZeneca. Here we go. Tick. Tick box for AstraZeneca. Rare disease. Let's just remember that AstraZeneca entered into an agreement with Pfizer and Alexion into rare disease gene therapies. There you go, folks. It's not a vaccine. These are gene therapies we're talking about. That's AstraZeneca. Let's look at Pfizer. Oh, look, there we go. Pfizer, tick box, rare disease. Well, might as well carry on. Moderna, tick box, tick, rare disease. There's a lot of rare disease research and rare disease clinical trials going on, don't you think? Are you joining? Starting to see the dots that I'm joining. Well, don't worry, we haven't got just Pfizer and Moderna and AstraZeneca at play here. We've got the World Economic Forum, because they're in it as well. Rare diseases. And here you've got the World Economic Forum solving rare disease. And what do they want? They want your data. That's where all this is going back to. They're looking at resolutions for rare diseases, but my question's going to be, and this is a question for all of you, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but I'm not hearing so much from the vaccine injured, and that's what I'm hoping very much to bring to our podcast, is lots of people telling their stories, because if it wasn't for those brave vaccine injured that are standing up and talking out and telling us what life is like for them now, they are holding the beacons of light for the rest of us. They really, really are. And I have to ask myself, with so many people in this country now having received an mRNA injection or a COVID-19 injection, and they've now got what's being called a rare disease, have we swept away vaccine serious adverse reactions? Have we swept it under the carpet? Government don't want to talk about that anymore. So let's not use that term. Let's use rare disease. Is that what we're going to do? Vaccine injuries swept under the carpet and use rare disease? I'll let you decide for that. But, I want to go back to cancer, because I feel as though that at the moment we're all looking at avian flu, monkeypox. What is the next pandemic? Is it going to be disease X? We're all waiting, aren't we? Watching. But actually, as I'm sitting here talking to you now, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And the pandemic is that cancer pandemic. And I want to go back to cancer. So here's the Sunday Express. And it's splashed all over the front page. Shock horror. 6.6 billion. It's funny how 66 keeps coming up, doesn't it? 6.6 billion report, very quietly, that's what it costs. Asylum support, 6.6 billion. But the HSJ have announced that cancer testing centres and virtual wards will be cut back because the NHS is forced to eliminate. Now wait for this, folks, because what number did I mention just now? 6.6 billion for the asylum seekers. And guess how much they've got to cut from the NHS budget? 6.6 is the forecast. 6.6 billion, exactly the same number. Are you seeing coincidences? I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Synchronicity, serendipity. So robbing Peter to play Paul. But who's going to suffer? Again, it's going to be those that are ill, those that are sick, those that are dying, and those that are injured. So cancer, what is it? Well, it's $1 trillion industry, and we're starting to educate our tiny tots. Yes, this is a board book. These are board books, these are children's books on cancer. Chemotherapy. Let's talk to our tiny tots. I know, let's talk to our tiny tots with a bedtime story on chemotherapy, shall we? Is that appropriate? Or perhaps we should be telling our tiny tots what it's like to live with cancer. And I have actually got a board book with me that might shock you. And I'll show you that right at the end. But I actually bought it because I couldn't believe it was online. So I'll show you that at the end. So the kids, we're going to start early. Let's go back to the Cancer Act, shall we? Because that's where it all started. Cancer Act 1939. But you'll see here that pretty much all of it is gone. There's only one part of it that is still law, and that's advertisements. The rest of it is no longer valid. So forget about it, basically, apart from advertisements. But today in the NHS, and this is where I'm quite confused actually, and you'll see in this next diagram, 1 in 2 are meant to be getting cancer in their lifetimes. Since when, NHS? This is what the NHS are saying, that 1 in 2 will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetimes, and that 2 out of 5 of those cancers will be preventable. 1 in 2. I don't know where that statistic came from, honestly. But today, in 2025, somebody's telling porky pies here, and I'll show you why. Because the World Economic Forum is also promoting cancer and cancer vaccines. But they seem to have got a different perspective on it. And the WEF actually say that 1 in 5 will get cancer in their lifetimes. 1 in 5? The NHS say 1 in 2. You've just seen the slide. You know from the adverts that we're watching on TV that we're being literally wall to wall cancer, stand up for cancer, cancer research, do a marathon for cancer. 1 in 2. No, not according to the World Economic Forum, not according to the World Health Organization. Please feel free to go and check the stat, but it's 1 in 5. So somebody is telling porky pies. Who is telling porky pies? Maybe Mariana Spring, if you're listening, this is your job. Perhaps you would BBC verify who is telling a porky pie. Somebody is, right? Somebody is. We've got the WEF and the WHO saying 1 in 5. We've got the NHS saying 1 in 2. This is in plain sight, everybody. This isn't a conspiracy. This is fact. So, Mariana Spring, where are you? I don't know. But why? Why are so many adults getting cancer? Why? Young adults, colorectal cancer, we've already talked about, uterine cancer, stomach cancer, predicted rises of 30%. 30% for young people with cancer. This doesn't make sense to me. But let's look at BBC Future. Let's go back to Mariana Spring and BBC Future this time. Because they're saying that it's a puzzle. They can't work it out. There's an early onset of cancer. Why? Well, Mariana, again, if you're watching, do walk my way, and perhaps we can invite Professor Angus Dalgleish and other oncologists to tell you that it's not a puzzle, that there is a very obvious reason for this, but we need to eliminate it, and we need to look at mRNA vaccines. Just remember that, mRNA vaccines. So here we see Professor Angus Dalgleish in Cancer Active saying clearly that these vaccines have been causing cancer. Not only the COVID-19 vaccines, and we've talked about this before. I want to talk about weight loss jabs very, very quickly. So there are other drugs on the market that can cause cancer. So we're looking at weight loss jabs, and the MHRA have reported that 400 people have needed hospital treatment. 400 people have needed hospital. Now they're admitting that. They haven't admitted that anybody with a vaccine injury really has needed hospital treatment, but they're admitting that this is posing a problem. And they're looking at the drugs Wegovy, MHRA and Saxenda. So for any of you that are considering taking weight loss jabs, I would ask you and urge you to think again, because going on here you'll see in the Daily Mail they report skinny jab warning, cancer diagnosis, thyroid cancer. Now, I've checked fact check and they said no, there's nothing to see here. But I've gone to the patient information leaflet for Wegovy, and quite clearly there it does say, if you have a history of thyroid cancer in your family, this is not the drug for you. This is jabs, these are injections. Once injected, you can't uninject. And I've seen people that have taken these weight loss jabs, and they do look very ill, a lot of them. And I would also like to highlight the fact that the NHS waiting lists are going to be going down. Whoop, whoop. You say, no, actually, the waiting lists are going to be going down if you're a bit overweight, sorry, but you've got to lose weight. 18 weeks you've got to lose weight. And if you're a smoker, you have to give evidence of you stopping smoking. Now, if you've only got 18 weeks to your medical procedure or surgical procedure that you need, and you've got quite a bit of weight to lose, a couple of stone, would you be tempted to have a weight loss jab? And they're not available on the NHS, by the way. It'll cost you around about £80 a week to maintain on these weight loss jabs. But do you trust them, bearing in mind that there is a cancer serious adverse reaction with regards to this? So we're reforming the NHS to deliver cancer services amongst the best in the world. And that's why I really want to bring your attention to, it's not just one drug, it's a lot of drugs that are coming down the pipeline. And I just want to return to the NHS here now to show you that this is indeed what is planned for the future. And another paper, which again is going to be in plain sight. So you know what, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, she's whittering on a bit too much, if nothing else, just watch the next couple of minutes, right? Because it's in plain sight. So even if you just clip this little bit and send it around on social media, because it's proof. So this is the Cancer Healthcare Goal document, UK government, and it clearly says here, and I'm going to read it out, so please let this sink in, this couple of phrases. The United Kingdom is the leading testbed for oncology innovation. They're going to be accelerating development of commercialization of new generation cancer diagnostics and therapeutics. There you have it, everyone. The United Kingdom is the world lead in cancer research. The United Kingdom is what I believe is the experimental laboratory for us cancer rats. Let's face it, the NHS is unique. There isn't another one in the rest of the world. We've got the biggest medical database in the world, easy access. We've got a highly densely populated island. We're an island nation. And quite clearly from that Cancer Healthcare Gold paper, you can see that we are the lead in the world for cancer, or we are proposing to be the lead. And we'll come on to how we're proposing to be the lead in a minute. But cancer diagnostics and therapeutics are the way to go. And please, can everybody remember, because we will talk about clinical trials in a minute, but I just want to talk to you a bit about language, because clinical trial, when you go back to World War II, and people talk about Mengele and experiments and everyone, oh, Mengele. A clinical trial is an experiment, right? It's just another term for an experiment. So let's call a clinical trial an experiment. Let's go to the OECD on cancer, because we can see that they're tackling the impact of cancer, and they say that the impact is huge and it has a massive, massive effect, a knock-on effect to the economy and society. And it's a challenge, and the United Kingdom want to find a way around it. So we've got our very own, wait for this is another new document coming up which you might not have heard of, but really it says it all. It's the NHS Cancer Vaccine Launch Pad. It is what it says on the tin. It's going to speed up access to mRNA, and it's in collaboration with BioNTech. Remember BioNTech? They're joined at the hip to Pfizer. Yes, you remember them. I'm sure you do. But there's more. We'll go on to BioNTech in a minute. But you do remember Katalin Kariko and Drew Weissman, who, when they got the computer coding for the vaccine was developed in 15 minutes. And I have got video somewhere, maybe we'll show it another time, of Drew Weissman very proudly saying it only took 15 minutes to get that mRNA shot developed, and we all know what's happened then, and they actually won the Nobel Prize for that. But anyway, going back to the cancer vaccine launchpad, who is suitable for this cancer vaccine that apparently is going to transform everybody's lives? Well, anybody that's diagnosed with cancer, literally. It's that bad, and you can see that where it says personalized genomics prediction. Now, I'm going to be saying something quite strong here, and what I've learned and the dots that I've joined, it would appear that the genomic testing, cancer genomic testing, Genomics England, that genomic testing has been done so that if you in your family you have a history of cancer, then perhaps you might get breast cancer or colon cancer in 40 years time or 30 years time. Now you're going to get an injection, a vaccine, to stop you getting that. So it's going to be unpredicted. There's going to be nothing wrong with you now, but in case you get cancer in 20 to 30 years time, you ought to have a vaccine now. Maybe you'll need a vaccine every year. I don't know, but that's what's going ahead. So who's suitable? Everybody's suitable, and there has been, as I've mentioned before with BioNTech, there's a huge new agreement to deliver new cancer vaccines, and here you've got the proof of it with BioNTech, and they are looking for 10,000 patients. They've got labs and hubs setting up all over the UK. Please don't forget, a clinical trial is an experiment. And in the UK, we are the centre of experiments. Let's look at clinical trials, because we are accessing clinical trials a lot easier now. We've made the regulation and the legislation really simple so that you can pretty much get onto a clinical trial whenever you want to. Because why? It's going to cement the UK as the leading destination for international trials. We're going to reform the whole system. In fact, the MHRA are going to reform the whole system. That's a little bit worrying, don't you think? Clinical experiments. I mean, this is experiments that are going to be ongoing. Why? To make the UK the lead. This isn't about us. This is about the UK, not about each of us individually. But what is the aim? What is the aim? So the aim, Project Zero. Well, hello, back to AstraZeneca. This is the aim. The United Kingdom's aim is to eliminate cancer as a cause of death. And this is the AstraZeneca Project Zero. And it's basically a load of different essays written by loads of different authors. So let's have a look at the first one. We'll only have a look at a couple. Do go, please, and have a look at the document. So Lord Darcy, again, Lord Darcy, keeps popping up all over the place, doesn't he? Well, he thinks that we need artificial intelligence to detect cancer. That's closer than you think, and I'll tell you for why in a minute. And so that's Lord Darcy's contribution. Then we've got Professor Charles Swanton, who's the Chief Clinician for Cancer Research UK. Done a lot of work on Cancer Research UK. Be careful, when you next want to do your marathon for Cancer Research UK, do you know where your money's going to? Do you know that cancer research are largely funded by pharmaceutical companies? Just saying, in case you might want to think to donate your money to possibly a more grassroots local cause. But anyway, Professor Charles Swanton, he's Chief Clinician for Cancer Research UK, and he has said, and there you go, you can see it on screen, what is the NHS in plain sight? It is a research-driven health service. Research-driven. That's us. We are the lab rats. The research is going to be done on us. This is precision medicine. Precision medicine that is going to be manufactured in, wait for it, 48 hours. But we'll come on to that again in a minute too. So we're looking at a research health service. But let's turn our attention back to AstraZeneca, who of course partnered with Terra Carta, sustainable initiatives with King Charles we're back to King Charles, and many of you know that I've done quite a lot of work on King Charles and the royal family. And just to finish this piece off really a little bit is the three royals. We've suddenly got three members of the royal family with cancer. Princess of Wales, King Charles himself, and the Duchess of York. And you've got to ask yourselves, why? But we are going to come on to the United States of America. I want to tie all of this up really with how does this affect the USA. So we've got a video here of how important is pharmaceuticals and manufacturing in the USA. Have a look at this.
With a report that a number of companies are now looking at expanding their presence or bringing their businesses into America because of President Trump's policies. And just moments ago, before coming out here, I saw another report by Reuters revealing that Merck has opened a $1 billion facility at its North Carolina site. This is just the latest pharmaceutical company to boost its U.S. manufacturing in lieu of President Trump's tariffs. This announcement follows Eli Lilly's plans to invest at least $27 billion to build 4 new manufacturing plants here in the United States. And Pfizer has also said it's considering moving their manufacturing overseas right here to the United States of America.
So, Sunday, 22nd of January, 25. It's been announced. President Trump. President Trump, has he come to save us? I don't think so, because he's announced $500 billion into an AI mega project. I think it should be called MAGA project, actually. Make America Great Again, because I can't see how it's going to make Britain great again. But anyway, it's an AI mega project. And this is going to be employing, wait for it, over 100,000 people. And this is the dawn of a golden age. A golden age of what, you ask yourself? Well, it's the Stargate project. What is the Stargate project? Well, it's big tech. And it's an AI cancer cure. Cancer, see, we're going back to cancer again. Cutting out China. China. Oh, we need to talk about China. But anyway, this is to cut out China, and this is what President Trump wants. He wants to literally eliminate China from the whole picture. And he is going to design these amazing new cancer therapies. But I want you to look and see who this is partnered with. And it's only tiny little writing at the bottom, but it says they're partnered with OpenAI. This is Oracle and Larry Ellison. Partnered with OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. Now, SoftBank, just to remind you, I'm not going to go into it in any detail now, but just to remind you, there's an involvement there with our very own Lord Blair. Go and have a look at the tie-ups with Tony Blair, because the next slide will show you that SoftBank have been working with Tony Blair to create Indonesia's new capital. In fact, the Financial Times here say that Blair is SoftBank. So they're both linked up. They're all helping one another. But let's go back to the Economic Times and Larry Ellison talking about AI-driven cancer vaccines. Do you fancy watching him in action? Don't hold your breath, and you might need a stiff drink. But here's Larry Ellison telling you how exciting life is about to be.
Mr. President, one of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test.
Kemi Badenoch and Rishi Sunak were very cozy, and they were doing a trade pact with Texas. So we're talking about £18 billion worth of trade here. This is a big project. Let's just go to the slide of the office of the Texas governor, because we may as well go to source. I like to go back to source. And here you'll see Greg Abbott and Kemi Badenoch were cozying it up with Rishi Sunak on the 13th of March 2024 at 10 Downing Street to sign a trade deal. Trade in what, you might ask yourself? Well, the next slide will tell you. Chemicals, production, health, life sciences and supply chains. How convenient. And I just want to note too, and it notes in the next slide here, very close relationship that the UK leads all nations for Texas. We have such a close relationship with Texas, and it's good to know, all of you Texans, nothing personal, just looking at what's going on in your state, because there's a lot of investment. And it seems, you know, that you guys over the other side of the pond, you know more than we, because I was watching you know, one of these sofa good morning type programs where you've got celebrity doctors, and I just happened to catch this little piece. They were talking on the couch about cancer vaccines, but look where everybody, the world, is looking for a cure. Have a look at this, because I found it quite alarming.
So cancer vaccines, I describe it, Savannah, as just an absolutely new frontier for oncology. Cancer vaccines could have a place in being used alongside chemotherapy and immunotherapy. They might be used to prevent recurrence. They're also being studied to prevent a primary cancer in people who are at high risk. And if it sounds familiar to folks out there when I say they're using these advances in mRNA technology, you would be correct. That's the same technology that we used for the COVID vaccine. And what we're really following carefully, Savannah, is Britain's NHS is launching something called the Cancer Vaccine Launchpad. They're hoping to fast track thousands of patients into clinical trials, and we are going to see that data, and it's going to help the population here as well. Lots to look forward to. Dr. A.
We've had the chat with the celebrity doctor. Cancer vaccines, look to the NHS, look to the UK. The UK is going to come up with all the answers. Excuse me? So, am I getting this right here? The USA are going to manufacture all of the mRNA, which is going to be developed in 48 hours, and it's going to be shipped across here and tested on us. Is that the plot? Is that the plan? I'm throwing it out there for all of you, because from where I'm sat, that certainly seems to be what is going on. And of course, cancer research, they're all over this like a rash. And you can see that in this slide. 48 hours. Now, wasn't it just Larry Ellison that mentioned 48 hours to design and get a vaccine into your arm, a cancer vaccine? And here you've got cancer research all over this. Cancer Research UK, I have to add, all over this. 48 hours, mRNA vaccine ready for you. And £10 million worth of funding. But question, who are the lab rats? Let's look at the Lancet. See what I mean? It's all in plain sight. Folks, the UK NHS is to enrol thousands in trials of personalised mRNA cancer vaccines. Fast track cancer vaccines. There, you've got it in paper. Honestly, everybody listening, please take note of this, because it's in plain sight. Just go to the BBC. Go to the BBC and you can see that already the first candidate for a lung cancer vaccine, this is a gentleman called Jarusk Rask. I do apologise if I pronounced his name incorrectly, but he's checking to see if the lung cancer vaccine is safe. Thank you for risking your life. I'm not quite sure why you did, and I don't know how he is now. This was last year he was trialled with this cancer vaccine for lung cancer, and I have to say that the prognosis for many people with lung cancer is not that great. So to have a cancer vaccine for lung cancer, I don't know how this gentleman is now. And you know, it just goes on. Let's go to Oxford University, because we can see that Oxford University and GlaxoSmithKline, they're launching £50 million in immunoprevention programme to advance novel, that's new by the way, novel cancer research. So we're looking at cancer prevention, and here we go into the tests again, the genomics. Do you have a history of cancer in your family? Could you get cancer in 20 years time, 30 years time? So there you go, GSK and Oxford, and then we'll just bounce back to BioNTech quickly. And you can see that they're putting on clinical trials, experiments, research and development at Cambridge, and they are raring to go, literally raring to go. How keen are they? Well, you can see on the next slide, we've got a vaccine supply lead officer. Nice little salary there, £50,000 to £60,000 a year, a supply lead officer, and a new vaccine manufacturing centre, which we have spoken about before, but considering you know how everything's so slow. It's always very slow to build a hospital, isn't it? It's always very slow to build a school. Funnily enough, you know what? We're 12 months ahead of schedule for this vaccine manufacturing centre. Interesting, eh? 12 months ahead. Couldn't do it with a school, couldn't do it with a hospital, but you can do it with a vaccine management centre. And let's not forget Moderna. We are coming to the end of this, I do promise you, because I know this is a lot of information and it is very overwhelming. But just let's finish on a couple of little notes. One is Moderna, 10-year partnership. 10-year partnership with who? The UK. And who's working with the Moderna? With Moderna in the UK, it's our very own Assistant Chief Medical Officer, that was Jonathan Van Tam. Do you remember Professor Jonathan Van Tam? Yeah, he used to do analogies, you know, red card, yellow card, yellow card. Wasn't very funny at the time, but he used to do football analogies and think that he was, you know, your uncle, your kind uncle, giving you advice. So that's Moderna, and to top it all, Cambridge. If you're living in Cambridge, I spoke to Dom and Christian from Sheep Farm not long ago in Cambridge, and they're telling me that there are buildings popping up, hospitals popping up, labs popping up, research facilities popping up all over the place. And yes, Cambridge, you are really at the centre of this cancer pandemic or cancer research hub, because here you can see that whilst we're not building hospitals anywhere else because we've cancelled them, the Cambridge Cancer Research Hospital is very much going forward. It's a massive, massive hospital, and it is purely cancer research. The United States of America are the manufacturing global capital of the world, and the United Kingdom is the global experimental laboratory of the world for cancer and rare diseases. So I'll leave you on that note. I'm going to give you an and finally. I am going to give you an and finally, because I can't leave you all without giving you the latest news on the MHRA. So where are we going with the MHRA? Well, I'm just about to tell you. MHRA. Those of you that know me know that I have a great interest in Dame June Rain, Professor Graham Cook, all the MHRA board. Raj Long. I do love going to an MHRA board meeting. So let's finish up today with some MHRA news. And, well, I'm going to a board meeting. Well, by the time you watch this, I will have been to a board meeting. I can't believe. Am I a sad person? Am I really a sad person that I actually get excited about going to an MHRA board meeting? Not only that, but I'm going with my friend, Cheryl Granger. Really looking forward to it, because we're texting each other all through it. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? I'm shorthand. I do shorthand, so I'm and there's bings coming in from all. Oh, our lovely, lovely audience. So many of you joined the MHRA board. It's lovely to know that I'm not alone, because when I first started going to the MHRA board meetings, I was all on my own. And there was only like 20 hits on YouTube. And then as people started to find out the MHRA board meetings, they kind of morphed. They weren't really sure, I don't think, that they were being watched. And then they did realise they were being watched, and then they were being groomed, and it became like a stage management performance. So anyway, here's the notification. Look, I got my ticket. I got my ticket, and Cheryl's got her ticket too. So we will have lots more to report about on the MHRA board meeting coming up. But you know why I'm getting so excited, don't you? Oh, it's Dame June Rain's last. She's stepping down. She announced that she was going to step down at the beginning of last year. It's taken forever to find a replacement, but we seem to have struck gold. Maybe not. Here's Dame June Rain. I just wanted you to see a couple of pictures of her. I thought they were very appropriate. There she is, collecting her damehood. Nothing like a dame. There ain't nothing like a dame. And with a mask. Just two little pictures of her, just in case you'd forgotten what she looked like, really. Anyway, Dame June Rain has gone, and we've got a new CEO. I've been waiting for this. Now I'm waiting to see where June Rain's going. I've got a few ideas. Bill and Melinda Gates, perhaps. ICMRA, perhaps. I'm keeping my eyes out. But in the meantime, who have we got replacing Dame June Rain? Well, here we go. The government.uk, they announced it last week or a couple of weeks ago. Lawrence Talon. He's the new chief executive appointed at the MHRA as CEO. But who is he? Well, you know what? It's not rocket science. I'm not going to pretend that I've gone deep diving here because I've gone to LinkedIn. Sorry, everybody. But sometimes LinkedIn can be helpful. I try not to use it if I can possibly avoid it. But let's look at LinkedIn, Lawrence Tallon. So he's Deputy Chief Executive at Guy's and St Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust. But look at his experience. Oh my goodness, I'm going to go down so many rabbit holes. Look at this, a limited partner for KHP Ventures, a fellow for Skiana, the Health Leaders Network, a fellow for Salzburg Global Seminar, and also managing director of the Shelford Group. Now, the Shelford Group's very interesting, and I might do a whole little podcast about the Shelford Group actually, because there's quite a lot to say there. But if we go on through his LinkedIn, sorry everybody did use LinkedIn, you can see that he's worked for the Department of Health. He's civil service, he's got nothing to do with medicine, nothing to do with pharmacology, nothing to do with pharmacovigilance or patient safety. He's a manager, basically. You can see his history. He comes from Imperial College, Harvard. The same old names keep coming back, don't they? Lawrence Tallon. Interesting name, don't you think? Tallon. And I'll be looking into his conflicts of interest, and Cheryl and I will be bringing you lots of news from the MHRA. And if you think for 1 minute that we're not looking at them, we so are. They're central of our radar, and there's going to be new news, exclusive news, coming very soon with, again, my good friend Cheryl Granger. So for now, I think I've probably given you enough to think about. Rare diseases, cancer, NHS. So much happening, and I will be keeping my fingers on the pulse, and I've got quite a few more stories to bring you. So please join me again, and if you've enjoyed it and you like it, share it. You know, tell everybody, and well, you join your dots, and if your dots are different to my dots, then let us know. But thank you for watching. Go and look for me on X, Debbie Evans Matron, at Debbie Evans Matron, and don't forget, do no harm, tender loving care, and question everything. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye for now. I'm so sorry, I nearly forgot to show you the baby board book, and I did promise. So here you go. Are you ready for this? Brace yourselves. It's baby biochemist time. There you go. RNA, baby biochemist. And you're meant to discover your body's secret superhero, RNA, wouldn't you know? And this is published by Baby University Source Books, and the author is Cara Florence, who's a biochemist, and obviously wants to teach our babies early, because this is a board book, right? You know, the ones that you give babies before they can look at pages and turn pages without ripping them to shreds. So this is all about RNA. I'll just flip through it for you. Can you see? Take some screenshots, freeze the screen, whatever you need to do. Ribosomes, RNA, DNA, you name it. A nice little message at the end as well. I am an RNA virus genome. I infect cells. Sorry about that. Lovely. I'm sure your child will have sweet dreams when you've read them that for their bedtime story. Not. Enjoy. Bye-bye for now. Catch me for the next one. It's going to be a biggie.